The month is officially over, and that means it's time for a wrap up. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is going to be the January 2025 wrap up. So everything I read in January plus the ratings. January felt like it lasted forever. I can't believe we're in February. And now that we're in February, I feel like February is just like blowing by. Is anybody else feeling that way? Like January was creepy crawly and now like February is like gone already. I don't know. I didn't get as much reading done in January as I wanted simply because work started picking up for me and because I was traveling. So yeah, that sort of slowed down my momentum a little bit. Anyway, not important stuff, but before we get into it, make sure all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. Let's go over my rating system real quick, and then we will get into the reviews. 5-star means best of the best. I absolutely loved it. I had no notes. I'll recommend it to anybody and everybody. 4 stars means I still really liked it, but I had some issues. Maybe it was pace, maybe there were plot holes. It was still a really good book and I would still highly recommend it, but it wasn't perfect for me. 3 stars means I did not like it, but it was a subjectivity issue. So for whatever reason, this book did not work for me, but I could see it working for other people. I just happened to not be the right reader for this book. There may not have been really anything wrong with it. It just wasn't for me. 2 stars means I didn't like it and I won't probably recommend it. It had fundamental issues and I may never read the author again. 1 star is worst of the worst. I absolutely hated it. It ruined whatever happiness I had in me. I usually reserve my 1-star ratings for books that have like glorified rape, have grooming as like a positive thing, homophobia, transphobia, racism, like not in a teachable way, you know what I mean? Like it's highlighting these things as a good thing. Like, oh, it's good to be transphobic. Like, well, it's not. So, no. Like, it's pushing that it's okay to be a certain way, like, towards people, to, like, belittle people for who they are. Or, like I said, glorifying grooming, like, making it seem like it's a okay thing to do that. Or if it glorifies rape or sexual assault or domestic violence in any way, that's a 1 star for me. Also, cultural appropriation falls under this too. Like if there's a lot of cultural appropriation in it, it's going to be a no-go for me as well. Not many books get the 1 star, okay? Definitely not in the lineup today, but yeah, if you see me give a book a 1 star, it means it was truly heinous and I will never read the author again. Like, that's it. If the book is that bad to get a 1 star, I won't ever read the author again. Yeah. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. So another thing I need to tell you guys about the January lineup, it did not go well. Like, I have my maybes list, right? And so I basically just went through, and I searched for them all on audio first because I knew I was going to be traveling. And I was like, this is a great time for me to have an audiobook because I'm going to be in the car for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. So yeah, I was like, audiobook would be great for the trip, right? Only 1 book out of the entire December or January maybes lineup was available on audiobook. Can you believe that? I mean, it was like 6 books. 6 books and only 1 was available on the lineup. So, I mean, obviously I got that one, and then I had my book club book that I needed to read, and I got that on audio, and then for the 3rd book, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, only 1 book on my like maybes list had availability on audio. So yeah. And that book was When She Was Me by Marlee Bush. Okay, let's do the premise first before I give you guys my opinions on this book. First of all, it feels like I read this book a year ago, okay? That's how long January feels. Like, I feel like I'm barely remembering this book, okay? So we have twin sisters that live in a cabin on like some sort of national forest park type area, you know. The guy that was renting it to them passes away and he sells the land that has all the cabins and stuff on it to another woman, and you know, she moves in and they all introduce themselves, and basically she's fine with them continuing to stay on there with their lease and everything. As soon as she reopens the cabins for rentals, a young family comes. They have a teenage daughter, and within 2 days of that family staying at this campground place, the teenage girl goes missing. We're getting this all from the perspective of the two twin sisters that live in the cabin, like, on this property. And there's obviously, like, a lot of trauma and history that we're not getting right away, but you can just feel it there. And then when the teenage girl goes missing, one of the twins immediately thinks, this sounds like something familiar. And that's all I'm going to tell you. Because I really don't want to ruin any of it, okay? If you decide to read this book. So, what did I think of it? Y'all, this book was a lot. Like, I don't really even know how to explain it. Because when I talk about the premise, it sounds so good. And when I think back on this book, I'm like, yeah, the highlighting elements of this book were really good. But this book was way too long, okay? I felt like we were just dragging ourselves through this thing. The only reason I stayed plugged into this book was simply because I had so much I had to do that I literally just put my headphones on and did my housework and my chores and stuff and kept it going. That's the only reason it got done. Because there were so many points in this book where I wanted to walk away. I was bored out of my skull with this book. The pace was atrocious. We had to wait for literal ever to get the story on these twins. Forever, okay? I was just like, when are we going to get this story? Because they keep leaking like little pieces of it, like PTSD all over the place in this book, okay? Obviously between these two women, lots of PTSD, lots of flashback type stuff. One of the twins is like pretty much a recluse and like cannot be out in society, and the other one sort of like takes care of everyone. But there's also things that she does that indicate high amounts of trauma as well. So you know that these two have been like going through it, right? We didn't get their whole story until the very end of the book. The very end, okay? And while we're trying to figure out what their little trauma deal is, we're trying to solve this murder or this disappearance or whatever of this teenage girl. And it's like, that storyline was slow too. And it's like, well, nobody's in a hurry to find this girl. Everybody's just going about their business like, oh, I guess she'll probably turn up. What do you mean? She was here, now she's not. Are we not concerned? I don't know. The whole first half of the book, slow. And then the second half of the book, things kind of picked up, but still, it was like, I had no idea where we were going with this story the whole time. And as we're going through this story, we're getting this flashback story of something that happened to these young girls in the past, okay? But that story actually was pretty interesting, but it took forever too. Everything took forever. You guys, if I had not been so busy and committed, if I had not been so committed to finishing this book, I would have DNF'd it, because the pace just did not work for me at all. Now, by the time that we got to the end of the book, the plot twist, didn't see that coming. Dang, okay? Like, all the points to Marlee Bush for this plot twist, because she really blew me away with it. It was too late for me, okay? That plot twist was really, really good, and I did not see that coming. It was too late for me to care, though. Because we had just been dragging along for hundreds of pages, dragging along, okay? Also, the audio, very confusing, because we're getting the two perspectives of the twins. I could not tell who was who on the page, because they sounded exactly the same. Usually, like, the audio narrator will try to do some sort of a voice inflection or something to sort of separate the two characters, especially if they're the two main characters, and we really weren't getting that here. So I had a lot of trouble keeping the two twins separate. which is very important because they're two separate people having two separate responses to the same story, and they each have their own story that they're trying to tell us as well. So that made it difficult. And I did read the reviews, and a few other people also had this issue with the audio, so I know I was not alone in that. So this might work better in book form, like handheld or whatever. This might work better. I don't know. I don't know if that would. I feel like if I had read it with my own eyeballs, I would have DNF'd, honest, because the pace. But yeah, twist was good. I thought the story was, once we got the whole story, I thought the story was decent. There was way too much happening in between that I just could not care about. I ended up giving this 3 stars. This book is pretty highly rated. There were a few people in the review section that I felt like had the same feeling about the book that I did, but overwhelming majority of people really liked this book. So yeah, that's why it's 3, because I feel like I just was not the right reader for this. Give it a go if you want. Next book I read in January was Gather the Daughters by Jennie Melamed. Okay, this was not on the maybes list for January, but it was on the maybes list for December, okay? Talked about this book in the December maybes. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I put it on the lineup, the potential lineup for December. Okay, I thought about it all in December, and then when it came time in January, like I said, I could not get any of the other books on my maybes list on audio. And so I was like, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about this book. Let me see. And they had it on audio, so I got it. This book was a lot, so let's talk about it. Basically, we're living on an island away from everybody else, and this whole island is basically owned by a cult, okay? And this cult has a very high fixation on controlling women. Yes, I think that's a good way to put it. They have very weird views on what's acceptable for young girls and what's acceptable for married women. And basically, it's very, I would say this is very Christian-based cult type stuff. But they do reference gods or God, but it's like, it's sort of like LDS, I would say, or something similar to that, where they worship the founders of their religion versus like an actual God. It did not feel dense, okay? This was very easily explained. It became very natural to understand the way that they had structured their society. So if you're worried about that, it's not difficult, okay? I'm just having a hard time explaining it because I don't really want to tell you guys a lot about it. But the structure of the cult is very easy to understand. And once you kind of get into it, it's very easy to see what's happening, especially to women inside of this cult. But basically, in the summertime, the summer belongs to the children, and they're basically just allowed to run wild. And in the midst of this, some of the older girls that are going to be on their last free summer before they go to summer fruition, which is its whole other thing, have started asking questions. And they start getting some new outsiders that are joining the cult, which sparks a lot of interest. Also, some girls end up dying very suddenly, which also sparks some controversy among the younger girls that are the older of the young girls, if that makes sense. So they're like, I would say, between 13 and 17. They start asking a lot of questions, and questions are not very welcomed within the structure of the cult. And so, yeah, this summer is the summer when they all decide, I want to know what's going on. This book was a lot. It was a lot. I would say if you have any kind of SA trauma or domestic violence trauma, tread lightly with this book, okay? Lots of trauma in this book. Lots of triggers, I would say, in this book if you are sensitive to things like that. Y'all know I love a good cult book, okay? This one was done exceptionally well. This was messed up, okay? In the nicest way possible, this was messed up. And I just felt horrible for these girls and the women, because even though the women got married and like had a higher status, I would say, in their home, they were still very much abused, like the girls in different ways. A lot of mental stuff happening in this book as well. It was a lot. It was a lot, okay? And there was a point where I was like, what's gonna happen? The ending, I had to sit with the ending, okay? Because I was furious at first. I was so upset at how everything turned out. And then I was like, okay, this is more of like a bittersweet ending. And then when I came around and I saw what Jennie Melamed had done with the entirety of the book, as in like the narrators of the book, who was telling the story, the point of views, when I came back to that and I saw it all full circle together, it was brilliant. And she pulled it off beautifully, okay? I ended up giving this 4 stars. And I know I talked really highly of it, so it should have been a 5-star book. There were just points where it was really slow. There were just points where I was waiting for the next thing to happen. And that happened a few times in the book, but it all ended up resolving itself. And like I said, I struggled with the ending. Even now, when I look back on it, I don't know how I feel about it. I think I would feel differently about it every single day if I thought about it every single day. This is one of those books I will think about for a long time, though. I don't know that I'll ever not think about this book. Okay? I think if you like Handmaid's Tale, you would probably like this book. If you like anything to do with cults, this one was really interesting, okay? The psychological aspects of this book, of like being in the cult, really good, okay? I also think if you like anything with like a dystopian vibe, this is a really good one too, because it does feel dystopian, but it's not. But it does have that feel to it. I also think that if you like Midsummer, this gave me a lot of Midsummer vibes, okay? In really weird ways. All right, this was not a horror story. I mean, it could be. It could be a horror story, honestly. If she had pushed it a little more, it would have been horrifying. So yeah, I think if you like Handmaids, if you like Midsummer, if you like cults, add this on, okay? But yeah, be prepared if you are sensitive to some of those topics. They don't hold back, okay? It's all in there. The last book I read in January was Sociopath, a memoir by Patric Gagne. Okay, this was chosen for my book club. This was so weirdly interesting. So this is a memoir. This is written by Patric Gagne, who is a PhD, and she is also a sociopath, diagnosed sociopath. And this is basically her story of from childhood to adulthood, learning that she is a sociopath and how she deals with that. It's crazy. Okay, I'm really not going to tell you any more because there's really not that much more to tell you. It's a memoir about her life from childhood to adulthood dealing with her diagnosis, which she didn't even get officially diagnosed until she was a lot older. If you like psychological character studies, this is really good, okay? If anything about psychology interests you, this is going to be really good. If you're a teacher, we have a lot of teachers in my book club group, and a lot of them said they found this super interesting because it reminds them of some of the children they've taught. So if you're in a role where you get to spend a lot of time with children and you notice that like some of them are not really, I would say, emotionally functioning on the level of their peers, you might find this interesting. Obviously I don't teach, I'm not a teacher. Oh, not obviously. I don't know why I thought you guys would just like know that. I'm not a teacher though, but like, as a psychological character study, this was really interesting. Like, there were so many times when I thought, this is it. She's gonna lose it. Honestly, I didn't know that much about sociopathy before I started reading this, so I learned quite a bit. And if sociopathy interests you, Patric tells a really cool story, okay? I did this on audio, and I really loved it on audio because she narrated it, okay? So she was like it literally felt like I was sitting down with her and she was telling me her life story. I really liked it. Everyone in my book club pretty much liked it too. There were only a few people that thought it was kind of boring, but I mean, yeah, it's a memoir. Those are hit and miss with a lot of people, okay? Sometimes they're hit and miss with me, but this one really hit. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and that is because the pace is a problem every now and then. I feel like there were just times when waiting around for things to happen, waiting for Patric to tell us the next part of the story. Or there were a lot of repeating themes in the book. And yeah, but all in all, I really liked this one. It was really interesting. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. That's everything I read in January. Like I said, the month stretched on forever, but I really didn't get as much reading done as I was hoping. Work picked back up for me. Work has really picked up for me this month. I was surprised. I took a little break in December to like travel with my family and everything, and now that I'm back, it's like I'm back. Work is pumped up, okay? So I don't know. I already got a book in January though, or February, sorry, and I really liked it. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about what I end up reading in February. There is going to be a post probably next week. Favorite books by Black authors because it is Black History Month. But yeah. Make sure all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week. And let me know in the comments what you read in January or if you read anything that I read. Or if anything has been interesting to you, what you're reading in February. I don't care. Leave me a comment about anything. I love hearing from all of you. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you all next time. Bye.